The sun was setting behind the desert mountains of Arizona when a strange ripple tore through the sky, so fast no radar or camera caught it. Only one old man in a pickup truck driving down an empty road saw a streak of blue lightning flash across the clouds. He blinked, thinking he imagined it. But the ripple was real. It wasn't a plane, a drone, or a missile. It was Lyra. She wasn't human. She wasn't even from Earth. Lyra came from a planet called Elson, a beautiful world with glowing forests, floating lakes, and twin moons. She had lived there all her life until war came and shattered everything. Elson was caught in a terrible battle between two powerful alien factions. No one knew exactly why they were fighting, but the destruction was unstoppable. Lyra was just a teenager, only 16 in human years, when she saw her city burning. Her parents, both scientists, had built a hidden pod under their home meant to escape to distant worlds if things ever got that bad. They had only seconds. Her mother kissed her forehead. Her father activated the pod. And before Lyra could say goodbye, the door sealed shut, and everything outside turned white with the flash of an explosion. Lyra woke up hours, maybe days, later. The pod had traveled through a wormhole and landed near a secret U.S. military test site in Arizona. The desert was silent, hot, dry. Her pod had cracked open and she had crawled out, weak and dizzy. Her skin shimmered faintly under the sun, and her silver eyes blinked slowly as she stumbled forward. That's when the soldiers found her. They were driving near the testing site when they noticed something on the sand, something not human. At first they aimed their weapons, unsure if she was a threat, but then they saw her condition. Her clothes torn, her eyes wide and scared, her body shaking. She collapsed before she could say a word. They took her to a secret facility nearby. The base was used for experimental technology, but now it became a temporary shelter for an unknown visitor. Doctors examined her. She didn't speak their language, but she tried to mimic sounds, copying what they said until she slowly began to understand English. Her body was different. Her DNA had patterns never seen before. But she was humanoid enough to blend in, at least from a distance. The government decided not to announce her arrival. Only a small group of trusted officials and scientists were informed. They gave her a new name, Lyra Mason, pretending she was part of a foreign exchange program from an unknown island country. Fake documents were created. She was placed in a small town nearby, enrolled in a local high school, and assigned a young female agent as her guardian. Lyra tried to adapt. She watched people closely, learned quickly, and used her natural intelligence to blend in. Her appearance was close enough to human, slightly taller, skin with a soft glow under moonlight, and eyes that seemed to change color depending on her emotions. Most students thought she was just different, mysterious, beautiful. Some were curious, others jealous. But Lyra stayed quiet and kind. She missed her family deeply. Every night she would look at the sky and wonder if any of her people had survived. She had no way to communicate back home, if home even still existed. The town where she lived was peaceful, but she was never completely free. Every 2 weeks, she was taken back to the lab for checkups. The scientists tested her body, her cells, her blood, her reflexes. They were amazed. Her immune system was faster. Her brain processed information quicker, but she had no offensive powers, no lasers from her eyes, no super strength. She was just enhanced, naturally. At least that's what everyone believed. One rainy afternoon, while being escorted through the lab for her usual testing, Lyra wandered into a side room. It looked like a small kitchen. She was thirsty and spotted a clear bottle with a strange blue liquid. The label had long scientific words she didn't understand. But in her homeworld, blue liquids were often hydration supplements. So without thinking, she opened the bottle and drank it. The taste was bitter. It burned slightly down her throat. Moments later, alarms began to ring in the lab. She had just consumed a combat enhancement serum designed for elite human soldiers. The liquid wasn't a drink. It was an experimental chemical meant to boost strength, speed, and aggression in trained fighters. It was unstable, untested, still in early development. Even for a human, one small dose could have unpredictable results. For someone non-human, no one knew what would happen. At first, Lyra felt dizzy. Her heart raced. She collapsed to the floor. Her body began to tremble, and strange pulses of light started to flicker across her skin. Scientists rushed in, screaming for help. Her eyes glowed pure silver. Her fingers twitched like they were pulling invisible strings in the air. The room grew hot. Machines began to glitch. Monitors sparked and shut off. One glass screen nearby shattered without being touched. Then she passed out. They rushed her to a containment room, unsure if she would survive or if she had just turned into something dangerous. But hours later, Lyra woke up. Calm, breathing, steady, no signs of injury. In fact, her body was more stable than before. The serum had not harmed her. It had changed her. She could feel it. Inside, everything was clearer, sharper. She could hear the footsteps of people in other rooms. She could feel the vibrations in walls. Her fingers itched with energy. She looked at her hands, noticing tiny flickers of light running under her skin like tiny rivers. Something had awakened inside her. When the doctors tested her again, they were stunned. Her strength had doubled. Her reaction time was superhuman. She could read a full book in minutes and repeat every word. One test measured her ability to predict random movements. She scored beyond the highest limits ever recorded. But more than anything, her emotions had changed. She wasn't angry. She wasn't scared. She was focused, like her brain had entered a different state of being. Her thoughts were faster but colder, clearer but quieter. She didn't even flinch when one of the doctors accidentally dropped a heavy tool near her. She caught it midair without turning her head. No one could understand how a serum meant for humans had such an effect on her. They started analyzing her DNA again, checking for mutations. Some thought she might be a threat. Others believed she was a scientific miracle. But Lyra was confused. She hadn't meant to change. She hadn't meant to become whatever she was now. Her body felt like hers, but also not. Sometimes she could feel energy vibrating through her chest like a heartbeat that wasn't hers. Sometimes her voice echoed strangely like two people were speaking at once. She began seeing people's emotions as colors, bright, dancing waves in the air. When someone was sad, she saw blue. When they were angry, red sparks hovered around their body. When someone lied, a flicker of black shadow touched their face. She stopped telling people about it. She didn't want to be feared. At school, things started getting strange. During gym class, she ran faster than anyone else. In a fight between two boys, one accidentally shoved her, and without thinking, she pushed back. The boy flew across the field and landed with a thud, unhurt, but stunned. People began whispering. Rumors started about her strength, her eyes, her weird energy. That night, she cried alone in her room. She missed her home. She missed being normal. She didn't ask for this. But deep down, she knew something bigger was coming. The serum hadn't just changed her. It had awakened a secret inside her genes. Something even she didn't understand. And someone, somewhere, might have felt it too. The next morning, Lyra woke up with a strange feeling inside her chest, like something was humming deep within her, almost like a second heartbeat. It wasn't painful, but it was strong, constant, and impossible to ignore. She stood in front of the mirror and stared at herself. Her eyes were brighter than usual. Her skin glowed faintly in the dark, even though the lights were off. She touched her face, trying to calm her breath. She wasn't sick. She wasn't tired. But she wasn't normal anymore either. At breakfast, her guardian agent Kira tried to talk to her, pretending everything was fine. "You feeling okay today?" Kira asked, handing her a bowl of cereal. Lyra nodded quietly. Yes, but she wasn't okay. She could hear Kira's heartbeat. She could hear the fridge motor vibrating. The neighbor's music playing 2 houses away and a dog barking 4 blocks down. Something inside her had changed completely. At school, the effect grew stronger. When she walked through the halls, it felt like she was walking through a world made of sounds, lights, and emotions. She could hear whispers behind lockers, feel anger bouncing off angry students like invisible heat waves, and sense lies in people's voices even when they smiled. In biology class, the teacher asked her to read from the textbook. She didn't need to. She had already memorized the entire book, every page, every chart, every diagram, after glancing through it that morning. She pretended to read, not wanting anyone to notice. But the real shock came during gym class. Coach Daniels wanted the students to test their running times. He blew the whistle. One by one, students ran laps across the field, and Lyra stood in line, nervous. When it was her turn, she took a deep breath and began to run. She didn't mean to run fast. She didn't even feel like she was running hard. But within seconds, she had crossed the finish line. So fast that even the coach blinked, in confusion. The stopwatch showed a number faster than any high school athlete in the state. The other students were stunned. Lyra slowed down and looked behind her. Everyone was staring. She felt fear rising in the air, not hers, but theirs. It came off them like smoke, invisible but thick. "Did you cheat?" one boy asked. "She's not normal," whispered a girl behind him. "I saw her eyes flash," someone else mumbled. Lyra felt her pulse quicken, but she said nothing. She looked down and walked away. Later that day, in the lab facility, scientists watched the surveillance footage of her earlier accident when she drank the serum. They zoomed in on the label. It was clear now. Human Combat Serum, Prototype 9X. The file said it was designed to increase human physical and mental abilities in combat conditions. It was still experimental. It had never been tested on aliens or even regular civilians. Dr. Howard, the chief scientist, looked serious. She should have died from it, or at least had internal damage. But instead, asked his assistant. Instead, it seems to have enhanced her, amplified something already inside her biology. They looked at the test results again. Her body wasn't just surviving the serum, it was adapting to it, integrating it, growing stronger by the hour. They brought her in again for testing. This time they placed her in a sealed observation room with pressure sensors and cameras. She was told to sit still. Then they began testing her reactions. The room released sudden flashes of light, loud bursts of sound, and quick-moving obstacles. To the scientists' amazement, Lyra reacted before the machines even moved. Her eyes flicked to the left a split second before a panel opened. Her hand reached up before a flashing light even appeared. It was like she could feel time, just a little, before it happened. Her reflexes were no longer just fast. They were almost predictive. They measured her strength too. A standard grip device used by trained soldiers exploded in her hand when she squeezed too hard. One steel bar, meant to be unbendable, cracked in her fingers like a twig. Lyra didn't smile. She didn't look proud. She looked scared. After the tests, Dr. Mason, the youngest scientist in the group and the only one who truly cared about her, sat with her in private. "Lyra," he said softly, "you're not in trouble. We just need to understand what's happening to you." "I didn't mean to change," she whispered. "It wasn't my choice." He nodded. "I know. But the serum, it didn't just affect you randomly. It found something inside you. Something sleeping. And now it's awake." Lyra looked down at her glowing hands. "What if I hurt someone?" Dr. Mason paused. "Then we'll make sure you don't. We'll help you control it." But not everyone agreed. A secret meeting was held the next night between military officers and high-level government officials. Some believed Lyra was a threat, too powerful, too unknown, too alien. Others wanted to protect her, study her, maybe even train her. One general spoke coldly. "She's not human, and now, thanks to our serum, she's more powerful than anything we've seen. If she decides to turn on us..." "She hasn't done anything wrong," Dr. Mason interrupted. She saved a student last week from being hit by a truck. She's just trying to fit in. But fear had already spread. The room was divided. Back at home, Lyra began noticing stranger changes. She could now hear radio waves, voices without speakers, signals from devices not yet invented. When she walked near, streetlights, they flickered. When she passed near phones, their screens blinked with static. And when she slept, her dreams were full of stars, memories that weren't hers, and shapes she couldn't describe. One night she sat in her backyard staring at the sky. The stars above blinked like they were watching her. She felt something, not on Earth but far away. Something calling. Something that recognized her presence now that her powers had awakened. Suddenly she heard a voice in her mind. Not English, not her native Elsinian language, but a feeling, like a signal. "You're not alone anymore." She sat up, heart racing. Was someone out there? The next day, everything changed. During lunch break at school, a bully shoved a younger boy. The boy fell, dropping his food. Lyra, standing nearby, saw it happen. She stepped forward, trying to help. The bully pushed her, hard. She barely moved, but something inside her snapped. Without meaning to, she turned, grabbed the bully's wrist, and in a flash lifted him off the ground and threw him backward, not out of anger, just instinct. The boy flew across the cafeteria and crashed into a table. No bones were broken, but everyone saw it. Everyone screamed. Phones came out. People started recording. She ran. Back at the lab, the video had already reached security. The government issued a secret order. If Lyra couldn't be controlled, she would have to be contained. Dr. Mason begged for time. She didn't do it. On purpose. She's scared, not dangerous. But a Black Ops unit was already being prepared. That night, Lyra was locked in her room by Kira for her safety. But Lyra had already heard the truth. She had heard the silent radio messages between agents. She had seen the black SUV parked near the neighborhood. They were coming for her. She looked in the mirror one last time. Her eyes weren't just glowing now. They were shining like stars. She opened her window, climbed out quietly, and ran into the desert, the only place where she could disappear. Her footsteps didn't leave marks. Her breath was silent. Her body blended into the shadows like mist. By the time the agents reached the house, she was already gone. Dr. Mason received a secret signal the next day. It came through the lab's encrypted system, something only Lyra could have sent. It was a single sentence. "I didn't ask for this, but now I must find out why it happened." She had vanished, but she wasn't running from them. She was searching for answers, and someone, or something, was already waiting for her out there. Lyra ran deep into the desert. The cold air at night brushed against her skin, but she didn't feel weak. Her body, ever since the Serum accident, was different now. Stronger, faster, more alive. The stars above twinkled like they were whispering secrets, and she listened carefully. She had no clear plan, no idea where to go. But inside her chest, she could still feel that strange energy, the same energy that had been waking up inside her since she drank the human combat serum. It wasn't just changing her physically. It was connecting her to something far away, and maybe something very old. She didn't stop running for hours. By the time the sun began to rise, her legs hadn't even grown tired. She finally reached a canyon, hidden deep in the Arizona wilderness, far from cities or roads. A narrow cave opening caught her eye. She stepped inside, where it was cool and quiet. This is where she decided to rest. She sat down, closed her eyes, and focused. And then she heard it again, that voice. But it wasn't a voice like humans used. It was like a thought, a soundless word, a deep feeling that vibrated inside her head. Lyra. Her eyes snapped open. The cave wasn't just a cave. She stood up slowly and looked around. There were symbols on the walls, glowing slightly, like veins of blue light in the stone. She reached out and touched one. Instantly, a flash of images flooded her mind. A planet with twin suns, silver towers stretching into space. Creatures like her, but older, stronger, wiser, wearing robes, holding crystals that hummed in their hands, and then fire, war, a dark shape swallowing stars. Lyra gasped and stepped back. "What was that?" she whispered. Suddenly the ground shook. Not like an earthquake, but like something underneath was waking up. A deep voice filled the air, not frightening, but strong. "You have awakened the signal. Who are you?" Lyra looked around. "My name is Lyra. I don't know what this place is. I'm not here to hurt anyone." A soft light began to form in the center of the cave, floating in the air. It took the shape of a tall figure, alien but peaceful looking. The figure wasn't alive. It was a hologram, a memory. "You are one of us," the voice said, "but different. You carry the seed of Elsin and something else." "You know, my planet?" she asked, her heart racing. The figure nodded. "I was once a guardian of Elsin many lifetimes ago. This cave is a memory vault. We placed it here long ago, in case one of our kind ever crossed into this world." Lyra's eyes widened. "You knew we would come to Earth?" "We hope not," the guardian replied. "But we prepared. This planet is ancient, older than humans believe. It holds hidden doors, gateways to places even your people never found." Lyra stepped closer. "Why was I changed after drinking the human serum?" The guardian was silent for a moment. Then it said, "Because the serum did not create power in you, it unlocked it. You were born with something rare, an ancient gene from the star bloodline." "Star blood?" she repeated. The image shifted. Stars bloomed in the air around her, like a galaxy swirling in slow motion. There were once beings who traveled across galaxies using only thought and light. They created life on many planets, including yours. Some of their energy remains in certain bloodlines, hidden, waiting. When the serum entered your body, it touched the star blood inside you. And now, you are changing." Lyra felt her knees shake. "Why me?" The guardian looked directly at her. "Because a darkness is coming. Something is searching for you." Lyra's heart stopped for a second. "What kind of darkness?" The image flickered and the stars turned black. "A being made of hunger. A hunter of power. It consumes those like you. Starborn, gifted, awakened. It destroyed Elsin. And now it searches for what survived. You are the spark it missed. But it knows now." Lyra stepped back, her breath quickening. "So I'm the last?" "You may not be the only one," the guardian said. "But you are the only one awakened. For now." Suddenly the hologram began to flicker. The lights dimmed. The cave trembled. Lyra turned sharply. Something outside was coming. The guardian's voice echoed as it vanished. "Run! They found you." Without hesitation, Lyra sprinted out of the cave. Above her, two dark aircrafts flew silently, shaped like black triangles, nearly invisible, against the sky. A red laser swept over the ground, searching. She had been tracked. A voice shouted through a speaker, "Lyra Mason, surrender immediately or we will use force." She didn't stop. Bullets weren't fired, yet. But a net made of blue energy shot out from one of the ships. It hit the ground behind her, creating a trap zone that started to close. She jumped high, higher than any human could, and rolled down a slope into the canyon below. She reached for a rock wall and to her surprise, her hands stuck to the surface. She began climbing, moving with spider-like precision. The serum wasn't just giving her strength now. It was evolving her body, adaptively, intelligently. At the top of the canyon, she leaped across to another ledge just as another energy net snapped shut behind her. She ran for hours. The ships eventually lost her, but she knew it wouldn't last. Meanwhile, back at the lab, Dr. Mason sat in front of a secure screen. A message had appeared. It was from Lyra. It said only, The serum awakened more than you imagined. There are others. Something worse is coming. I need to find it before it finds Earth. He didn't know how she hacked into the system, but he wasn't surprised. And now, far from civilization, Lyra wandered through mountains, deserts, and old forests. She survived on wild fruit and plants. Animals didn't run from her, they watched her. Birds landed near her feet. Wolves passed her by without growling. Nature knew her now. She followed dreams and instincts. Strange symbols appeared in her visions, symbols that glowed with ancient energy. Each time she touched a new place on Earth that connected with her. Alien blood, she received a piece of the puzzle. Old temples, hidden stone circles, even symbols deep beneath an abandoned missile silo. Every location whispered the same message. You are not just the last. You are the key. One night, as she slept in an old barn, someone found her. Not a soldier, not a scientist, a boy. He was about her age, human, with a backpack full of food and supplies. His name was Micah. He had seen one of the videos online, blurry, footage of her throwing a bully across the cafeteria, and instead of fear, he felt fascination. He believed she was real, and he wanted to help. At first, Lyra was unsure. She didn't trust people anymore. But Micah didn't ask too many questions. He just sat nearby, handed her food, and said, "You look like you need a friend." Lyra had never heard someone say that so simply, so she let him stay. They traveled together over the next few days. Micah was smart, funny, and brave in a quiet way. He knew how to hide, how to move undetected, and how to hack into satellites using an old laptop. Lyra slowly opened up to him. She told him about Elson, about the serum, about the voice from the cave, and about the coming darkness. Instead of running away, Micah said, "Then we have to stop it." "You say we?" Lyra asked, raising an eyebrow. "Well, I can't glow, or fly, or punch through walls," he grinned. "But I'm good with wires, and you're gonna need someone to ground you when things get weird." She smiled for the first time in weeks. That night, they both looked up at the stars. Lyra whispered, "Do you think there are others like me out there?" Micah nodded. "Maybe, but even if there aren't, you're enough." Just then, in the far distance of the sky, a small red comet streaked across the stars, but it wasn't a comet. It was a ship, and it wasn't coming in peace. Lyra and Micah stared at the red streak in the sky as it vanished behind the mountains. Lyra knew immediately that it wasn't a comet. It moved too fast, too sharply, and had no tail of fire. Her heart dropped. That was a ship, an alien ship. And if it had followed her energy signal, it was here for one reason only, to find her, and maybe to destroy everything else in the way. She and Micah quickly packed their small bags. They had to move, fast. Lyra wasn't just running from human agents now. Something much worse had arrived on Earth. The kind of thing the ancient hologram in the cave had warned her about. A hunter. A being of hunger. Micah looked over at her as they hiked toward the next town. "What if it's not after you?" Lyra shook her head. "It is. The Guardian said I carry star blood. That's like a beacon in the dark. The more I use my powers, the more it can feel me." Micah's voice dropped. "Then maybe you should stop using them." "I wish I could," she whispered. "But they're not just powers now. They're who I'm becoming." As they reached a small abandoned gas station, they took shelter inside. Dust covered the broken shelves and spiders crawled across old soda bottles. But it was dry and hidden. Lyra sat down and closed her eyes. She focused, trying to feel the stars, trying to sense the creature. But this time, something was different. She didn't feel a signal. She felt a hole, an emptiness in space. It was like a black fog moving through the galaxy, silent and cold. Then for just a second, a voice echoed in her mind. "I see you." She gasped and opened her eyes, her whole body shivering. Micah rushed to her side. "What happened?" "It spoke to me." "What did it say?" Lyra's voice cracked. "That it sees me." Micah was silent for a moment. Then he reached into his backpack and pulled out his laptop. He had connected a satellite receiver to track objects in orbit. After a few clicks and a bit of hacking, he pulled up something odd, an object just beyond the atmosphere not registered with any space agency. "It's hovering above the Pacific Ocean," he said, "but not moving, like it's waiting." Lyra knew why. It was waiting for nightfall, for her to come closer. It was watching. They couldn't go to the authorities. The government already feared her. Scientists wanted to lock her away. And the Black Ops team? They might shoot her on sight now, so they did the only thing they could. Head east, toward another old site Lyra had dreamed of, an ancient temple hidden beneath a forest in South America. She didn't know how she knew, but her dreams had shown her a map made of stars, and that temple glowed like a beacon. They stole a beat-up truck from an empty ranch and began driving through deserts and cities, always staying hidden, always watching the skies. On the second night of driving, Lyra started glowing in her sleep. Her skin shimmered with light like the stars above. Micah watched, worried but amazed. She wasn't just alien anymore. She was becoming something beyond species. A hybrid of human knowledge and alien power. A bridge between worlds. By the time they reached the edge of the rainforest, something had changed again. Lyra's senses became sharper. She could feel the thoughts of animals. She knew which path would be safe through the trees. Her hands could heal small wounds instantly. Her voice could make plants bloom, vines untangle, and wild creatures calm down. Even Micah noticed. "You're like part of the earth now." Lyra shook her head. "No, not the earth. The stars." After 3 days of hiking through thick forest, they finally found it. A temple built deep inside a mountain cave, covered in moss and vines. It wasn't Aztec. It wasn't Mayan. It was older, far older. And its walls were carved with the same glowing symbols Lyra had seen in her dreams. When she stepped inside, the symbols lit up. The air changed, and something opened underground. They walked into a chamber shaped like a star. In the center, a crystal floated above a stone platform. It hummed quietly, like it was alive. Lyra touched it. In that instant, her mind was pulled into a vision. She saw galaxies dying. She saw the creature. Not a monster with claws, but a being made of darkness moving like fog, swallowing stars, erasing civilizations. It had no name. It had no face. Only hunger. But it wasn't alone. There were others like Lyra, hidden on other planets. Some still sleeping. Some lost and some already consumed. The crystal spoke into her mind. "You were never meant to fight it alone, but the others are silent. You must awaken them." Then the vision ended. Lyra opened her eyes, sweating. Micah helped her stand. "What did you see?" "I saw the end of everything," she whispered, "and the beginning of something else. There are others out there like me. I have to find them." Micah nodded, even though it sounded impossible. "So what now?" Before she could answer, the ground trembled. A deafening roar echoed through the cave. Lyra and Micah ran outside and saw it. The ship. It had landed in the clearing, hovering above the ground, massive and black like a shadow made of metal. Red lights blinked across its surface, and from its underbelly something descended. It looked almost humanoid, tall, with armor like scales and a face covered by a dark mask. But its presence was wrong. The air around it shimmered with fear. The trees bent away from it. Micah stepped back. "What is that thing?" Lyra stepped forward. "The hunter." It didn't speak with a mouth, but Lyra heard it. "Starborn. Come forward, the blood of stars belongs to the void." She clenched her fists. Her hands glowed. Micah shouted, "Lyra, don't—" But it was too late. The creature raised its hand, and the ground exploded between them. Trees snapped. Rocks shattered. The shockwave threw them backward. Lyra rolled to her feet, glowing brighter than ever. She charged. The fight began. She moved faster than lightning, striking with power she didn't know she had. But the hunter blocked every move like it had seen them before. It was fast, faster than anything on Earth. It struck her chest, and she flew through a tree. She landed hard but stood up again. Micah ran to a nearby hill with his laptop trying to hack into the ship's signal. Maybe he could slow it down or find its weakness. Lyra jumped into the air, her body surrounded by blue light. She struck the hunter with a beam of pure energy, sending it skidding across the ground. But it rose again undamaged. "You are not ready," it said in her mind. "But you will be. When you kneel." Lyra screamed in rage. She punched the earth, and a shockwave blasted out in every direction. Birds flew. The jungle shook. Micah had to hold onto a tree to avoid being thrown. Still, the hunter advanced. Then, something unexpected happened. As the hunter raised its hand for the final blow, Lyra glowed so brightly that even the trees seemed to bow. A symbol appeared. On her forehead, an ancient star rune. The hunter paused. It stepped back. "The beacon is fully awakened," it said. "The others will feel it." Then it vanished, disappearing into black mist, escaping. The ship blinked red, then shot into the sky and disappeared. Lyra fell to her knees, breathing hard. Her skin steamed with heat. Her eyes were glowing like twin stars. Micah rushed to her, sighed. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "It didn't come to kill me, not yet. It came to test me, to see if I'm ready." "Ready for what?" "To stop what's coming next." She looked at the jungle around her. Birds returned. The air became still again, and far above, in the stars, other beacons flickered to life, signals from distant planets. Lyra had awakened more than just her own power. She had awakened a call across the galaxy, and now, others like her might be coming. The jungle was quiet after the battle. Trees stood broken, the air still warm from energy blasts, and the earth had cracks where Lyra had struck it with her glowing fists. She sat on the ground, her breathing slow, her skin dimly glowing now. Her power had calmed down, but inside her heart, a storm still raged. Micah sat next to her, his laptop still in his lap, screen cracked but working. He had managed to record the final seconds of the hunter's retreat. The ship had vanished into the clouds, but not before sending out a strange signal into the stars. "They'll come now," Lyra said softly, still looking at the sky. "Who?" Micah asked. "The others. The ones like me." Micah frowned. "Are they good?" "I don't know," Lyra admitted. "But they're waking up. I could feel them the moment that creature left, like lights blinking on across the sky." Micah didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The weight of everything was too heavy to explain with words. They couldn't stay in the jungle. The ship might return. So they traveled, this time heading toward a city, for the first time in weeks. Lyra felt different now. Stronger, yes, but also more distant from humans. Her senses were sharper than ever. She could hear heartbeats, smell lies, see people's emotions in colors, but she still trusted Micah. Maybe because he was the first human who had treated her as a person, not a science project or a threat. Just a girl trying to understand who she was. As they entered the city, news reports were playing on every screen. Satellite footage showed a meteor entering Earth's orbit, then disappearing over South America. People guessed it was a space probe, maybe a UFO, maybe a government weapon. Nobody knew the truth. But some people suspected. An old man stood in an alley as they passed, staring at Lyra with wide eyes. "You're one of them," he whispered. "How do you know?" she asked. "I've seen the stars burn before," he said. "Long ago, before the silence." That made no sense to Micah, but Lyra felt a chill. The silence? She had heard that word before in the temple. The man handed her a strange crystal, dark blue, small, glowing slightly. "This will help when the time comes," he said. "Not, all will rise for good." Then he vanished into the alley. Micah looked at her. "Creepy," You think he was one of the others? I don't know, she said. But he's right. Something's coming. Something big. That night, as they stayed in an old motel, Lyra had a dream. She stood on a floating island, surrounded by stars. In the sky above her were giant, glowing shapes like living constellations. Some looked human, others did not. But all of them stared down at her. Then a voice, old and deep, spoke. You are the first awakened, but not the only one. Light draws light, but it also draws shadows. She turned, and behind her, in the dark space, a black mist grew. It had no shape, no form, but it pulsed with hunger. The stars began to flicker. Then she woke up. She sat up in bed, shaking, her hands glowing again. Micah was already awake, watching her. You were glowing again, he said, and whispering in another language. I saw them, she said. The others, they're waking up. But so is it. Micah nodded. Then we need to find the others, before the darkness does. They began their journey again, this time across continents. Micah used hacked satellite data and the signal the hunter had left behind to track small energy flares, signs of alien awakenings. They followed one to a remote village in the Himalayas where they found a young girl who could freeze time for exactly 1 minute. She was scared, shaking, thinking she was cursed. But Lyra sat with her, calmed her, and shared her story. You're not cursed, she said. You're chosen. Then they found another, a boy in a desert city who could speak to metal, making machines move without touching them. Then another, a blind woman who could see through walls. Each of them had a symbol on their skin, hidden but glowing when touched by Lyra's hand. Star blood just like hers. She wasn't alone anymore. They traveled together, a small group of strangers from different parts of the world, united by the same strange light inside them. Lyra became their leader, not by choice, but because they trusted her. She had seen the creature. She had survived the hunter. They began calling themselves the Starborn. But peace did not last. In a ruined city in Eastern Europe, they found a place where another had awakened, but too late. The boy's body was still glowing, but his eyes were empty. Lyra touched his hand and screamed. She saw what he saw before he died. A dark figure, the same hunter, but this time stronger. And behind it, a shadow so large it covered the stars, the bar. Darkness had sent more, and they were getting closer. Micah worked harder than ever, trying to build a device that could send a signal to the stars, a message to warn the others, or maybe ask for help. But every time he tried to transmit, the signal was blocked. Something was jamming them. We're being watched, he said. Every time I send something out, something watches back. Then, one night, one of the Starborn disappeared, the girl from the mountains, gone without a sound. Only her crystal remained, shattered into pieces. They searched for her but found nothing. Lyra sat alone that night, staring at the stars. I can't keep them safe, she whispered. Micah sat beside her. You don't have to protect everyone, just lead them. You're not their shield, you're their light. She closed her eyes. Maybe he was right, but the light had a cost. Every time she used her power, it burned more. She could feel it changing. Her, making her less human. When the next attack came, it wasn't the hunter. It was a shadow storm. Black mist poured from the sky over a desert camp, devouring anything in its path. Lyra and the others stood together holding hands, forming a circle of glowing energy. Their powers combined, forming a shield. The mist slammed into it, but couldn't break through. Together they pushed back. Lyra sent out a wave of light. Pure and strong, filled with every memory she had, of the orphanage, the cave, the old woman, Micah's jokes, the girl who froze time. Every feeling of love and fear and hope she had inside her. The light exploded outward and the mist vanished. The darkness retreated, but not forever. The sky above them cracked, and from the stars, something fell. A figure made of silver and stardust, glowing with power beyond imagination. It landed in front of them and removed its mask, A face like Lyra's, a little older, wiser, eyes that had seen galaxies burn. "I heard your call," the woman said. "I am Sarai, the second awakened." Lyra stepped forward, stunned. "There are more?" "Hundreds," Sarai said. "Scattered, sleeping, waiting. But now, it begins." "What begins?" "The final war," Sarai said softly. "The darkness has found Earth, and it will not stop." Lyra felt her heart beating faster. "What do we do?" Sarai placed a hand on her shoulder. "We prepare. We awaken the rest. And we fight, not just for Earth, but for every star still shining." The Starborn gathered around them, their eyes filled with new hope, new fear, new fire. Lyra looked at the sky. Once, it had felt like a mystery, a place of dreams. Now, it was a battlefield. But she wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready. And she wasn't alone. The stars were waking up, and so was she. The end.